Hi, everyone. So, this is one of the examples that I cover in pretty much all my generative AI workshops. And I think for all functions, there are different use cases for doing this. So, I want to show you how to create HTML pages using generative AI. Now, of course, you can use different tools for it. The tool that I prefer is Claude, considering that there is an artifact that comes on the right side. Of course, ChatGPT also has the O3 model that does something similar, but I think Claude is the best one for this. We can obviously use Google AI Studio as well, but let's start with Claude. Now, the first thing I want to do is to take an example. So maybe let's take IndusInd Bank. And what I would like to do here is to get some ideas on what type of checklist would I want to create. So I'm going to give it some context that I work with IndusInd Bank. What types of checklists would I create? So now it gives me some ideas. It tells me that for compliance, relationship management, credit risk, operations, there are different checklists that can be done. So we want to keep it simple. I want to maybe pick any one of these, let's say audit and compliance. So now we'll go deeper and I will go to Claude and say, I work with IndusInd Bank and create a audit checklist. But now we also tell it that we want the checklist to be in HTML. So this is a brand new feature that it has the ability of searching on the internet as well. Claude for the longest time did not have a search feature. So we get an artifact on the right side and it basically writes the HTML code for me. Now, depending on how much you ask it to do, it might take anything from 30 seconds to sometimes 2, 3 minutes. We can also expand the window to see more of the code at the same time. So we'll wait for this to get complete. We can also go back to ChatGPT and then copy the code that has been created with Claude. Of course, we'll have to wait for it to get complete first. So right now we haven't specified how many points we want. So it is pretty much deciding it on its own. So I can simply copy the code, come back to ChatGPT, paste it, and then ask it to create a mark map syntax. Now, see, whenever I tell you use Claude or use ChatGPT, there is a lot of overlap. For example, mark map syntax can be done on Claude as well. Similarly, the HTML code can be created and previewed on ChatGPT as well. These are just personal experiences, not to say that other tools can't do it, but these are the tools that, in my experience, do the best job. So we get this nice mark map syntax, and I can go to a website called markmap.js.org. We can simply copy it, paste it, and as you can see, download is in HTML, and we get like a really detailed, beautiful looking HTML like this. And the best part is these are completely collapsible and expandable. So when you're presenting, I can, sort of start with one point and then keep on expanding on it. Okay, now let's come back to Claude and look at the checklist. We can also download it as HTML. Here we go. Of course, the logo cannot come. For that, the image has to be hosted somewhere. Otherwise, branch department, we have a date pickup, have audit ID, period covered, audit type. Now, why and how is it working? See, this is all randomness, which means that every time, even if I do the same thing 5 times, the results would be different. But if I upload a reference document or a business requirement document, I would expect the answers to be of more controllable quality, right? As you can see, I'm now able to click. It also tells me where it is picking it from. And I think this looks quite good. Now, if I go back, it also tells me that it has reached its maximum length, right? Now, see, that will happen. It depends on how large you want something to be. So what I'm going to do now is to make a slightly smaller one. So I'll say I work with Anderson Bank, create a audit checklist with 15 points in 3 categories. But I also want to be more specific. So I will tell it the opening page should show the 3 categories in 3 boxes with suitable icons. What I also want to do is there should be a progress bar at the top, ability to save note, an information icon that shows explanation only when clicked or hovered. I also want a dark light mode, export as CSV and text feature. And then on the first page should capture basic details about the person like this. That's it. So I can press enter. And while it is happening, I'll also do it in ChatGPT at the same time, just to compare and contrast. So we can go to ChatGPT O4 Mini High. I'll do exactly the same thing and run it. We'll also do this in Google AI Studio. Now, similar to Claude, we are getting an artifact. So in ChatGPT, we call it Canvas, and it is basically writing the entire code for me. In Google AI Studio, remember I chose the wrong model. I actually selected the image generation model, so it ended up creating an image for me, but that's okay. I can just go back and choose my 2.5 Pro model and do it again. All right, so this is ChatGPT. I can preview it. And as you can see, we can toggle dark and light mode. I can put in my details. I'm just putting 999 for now. Let's call it IT and start my audit. There is a progress bar, like it doesn't mention any point, which I can tell it, or I can ask it to choose on its own. And there's also a information tooltip that comes like this, which I think is quite nice. I can also add some notes, export as CSV and export as text. So let me just copy the code once. We can open Notepad. I'm just going to put this here, save it on my desktop as an HTML file. Let's call it chatgpt.html. And if I run this one more time, Avish 999 and IT, I can choose a few of the points. I can toggle the light dark mode, export as CSV, and as you can see, It exposes CSV like this. There are a few issues. For example, there's something wrong with the text rendering, but we can fix that. And export as text will also export an audit checklist text like this, which I think is quite cool. Let's go back to Claude. Now, Claude, obviously, like I told you, is a lot better looking. It still tells me it is reaching maximum length. That's quite odd. I'm not sure why it's giving me that error because it should not actually take. But for the moment, I'm shifting it to Opus, which is the more premium model. And this, by the way, is Google AI Studio. So Google AI Studio also has a experimental thought feature. So it actually tells you how it is thinking. So it tells you the user wants an HTML-based audit checklist, 15 points, 3 category, how to structure. So it's quite nice because you're also able to see how is it thinking behind the scene, right? And yep, here we go. So now if you notice, there's an index HTML. And if I keep on scrolling down, there is a style CSS. And finally, we also have script JS. So I'll download each of these three. So this is my JS, which is JavaScript. Then I have CSS, which is cascading style sheets. And then we have HTML. So these are the three components to design web pages like this. Let me go back to my downloads. These are the three. We can just put it in a folder. I'm going to call this Google AI Studio. I will run my code and here we go. I know the design colors are not really coming. That's okay. I mean, that all we can figure out later, but it has sort of made it. Also, if I look at the code, if I open it with Notepad, you will notice that it is, linked to style.css. So, I won't explain programming to you, but all the three are connected to each other. Let's go back to Claude and see whether this one worked. So I'm using the Opus model, that is the more premium model. Let us wait for this to get complete. Okay, it is again saying that it is hitting the maximum length, but let's give it a shot. Okay, you know what? Let me make it a little smaller. Let's just call it 9 points in 3 categories. I'll also tell it to keep code as compact as possible. I'm also turning on extended thinking and let's give this a shot. While this is happening, let me also show you firebase.google.com. This is again free to use. I can take exactly the same prompt and we can prototype it with AI. Yes, I think probably the extended thinking that I've selected on Claude would help, but let's wait and see. Because I've done this earlier, I don't see a reason why it wouldn't work. All right, so it's creating audit ease. That's a suggested name. detail capture, checklist, and data export. I want to prototype this. Okay, so far looks good. Perfect, looks good. Let me download it. And here we go. I think this looks quite good, right? So we have a light and a dark mode. I can put in my basic details. Audit name is, let's say, risk compliance. Havish. I'm just calling it IT. And we have a date picker. Let's choose maybe today. So I can do compliance security. I have the hover tooltip, which looks quite good. I'm just going to write hello world, select 1, 2, and 3. Go to next, 1, 2, and 3. Go to next, 1, 2, and let me add a hello world one more time. Yep, and I can save it. I can export it. And as we did earlier with the one with ChatGPT, I think this looks quite good. The details are coming at the top, then the completion and notes. Similarly, if I do export as text, it looks like this, right, which I think is quite good. We can also go back and ask it for more suggestions, right? So I can say, this is perfect. Give me, 31 line suggestions on what all can I add. Check this out. Okay, Firebase is this one. So this is what we've done on Firebase, everybody. I can basically put in my name, my ID, department, start audit. Let me check. Okay, there's some issue. Let's see if it can fix it. In the meantime, if I go back to Claude, you notice this is so cool. It gives me like different ideas as to what else can I do. I can add admin auditor viewer. I can implement digital signature. I can add an image upload capability, make a dashboard, and so on and so forth. Right? I can have a stopwatch feature, PDF export, searchable knowledge of audit procedures and requirement like that. So the idea is that if you want to now change the code, I can simply come to, let's say, a website like HTML Online Viewer Net. I can import my file and I can literally see the code and I can make changes on the fly. I can even test it and I can, make changes. Small changes. For example, if you want to change the heading, I can simply, change the heading here. If I want to call it SBI, I can just select Indus End and wherever I find it, I can just call it SBI and I can make the change. So yeah, I mean, it's not like super difficult to do. Of course, you can then mix and match. You can take the code over to Google AI Studio and ask it to make further changes. So AI Studio is very powerful. Sometimes the first attempt might not be very good looking, but if you take the code that is already coming from Claude, you can then continue working on it on Google AI Studio. Okay, let's see if this works now. Yeah, I mean, it's still not allowing me to go to the next page. I'm not really sure why. Let me see. Oh, there we go. So yeah, there you go. Right. I think it looks quite good like this. Right. What else can I show you? I mean, I've given you a simple example of how this works. You can obviously host it. There are many different ways of doing it on Netlify, on GitHub. You can also use something like tiny host. You get one for free. So I can simply come here and replace my file. I can put in the one that Claude generated. And if you notice, I can copy the link and this is shareable. You can actually share it with other people. Obviously, if you want to save all of this at the back end, I mean, that requires more work because then you'll have to get a database where you put in all these details. But remember, the details can be saved, on your local browser, which means that you've partly filled it and then you can ask it to resume working on it. Probably, another follow-up video that I create, I'll work on that. But you can take my word for it. Just ask Claude to enable local saving on the browser as well. So there we go. That was a quick example, everyone, on how to create HTML pages. And I hope you find some good use cases for this. See you for the next one.